This week was the drop of Spider-Noir, starring Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly. It's a project that, honestly, I've been pretty excited about. Even though the argument could be made, we've had so much Spider-Man content throughout the years, starting with Tobey's universe to Andrew's universe to now Tom Holland's universe, even the Into the Spider-Verse movies. Spider-Man fans have been eating pretty good. Even with the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that we haven't been. But I don't know. I feel like we always want more. As a Spider-Man fan, we always want more. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. The Spider-Noir dropped on Amazon Prime earlier this week. 8 episodes. They let you binge it. I finished it probably last night, I believe. And man, this was a really good show. Now, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't everything that I thought it was going to be. There are some things that I wish we had more of, some things I wish we had less of. But overall, it was a really satisfying piece that I enjoyed watching the entire time. I was engaged into the story. A lot of the characters I actually really enjoyed. And I think Nicolas Cage, I think his personality and the way that Nick Cage is anyway, I think fits with a Spider-Man, Peter Parker type of character. And when this show got announced, honestly, I was a bit surprised. I didn't think Spider-Noir was a popular character into the Spider-Verse. People liked him, and people just love seeing Nick Cage in stuff. That's why the Superman cameo was somewhat of a big deal, even though that movie was ass. But people love to see Nick Cage. People want him back as Ghost Rider for Doomsday or Secret Wars, and myself included. But I thought that Nick Cage doing this live action version of Spider-Noir was going to be very interesting. And I knew that Nick Cage was going to bring it. I was a equal amount of excited and curious because I wasn't sure how this was honestly going to turn out. We're jumping back in time into the 1940s, 50s, maybe even sooner. And honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not familiar outside of Into the Spider-Verse. I'm not really familiar with Spider-Noir and his story. And I know of the Ben Reilly character and him being a clone and choosing the name Ben Reilly, which was thrown at a little bit in this show. And I'm interested to see if they do a season 2, what that's going to bring. But as far as Spider-Noir himself, I am not too familiar with him at all. So this was completely fresh for me, and I was excited to see that. And the show does a really good job at making it feel like a Spider-Man story. Nick Cage's Ben Reilly is still very Peter Parker-esque, you know what I mean? You could tell he sacrifices a lot for the betterment of other people, even though he starts out a bit selfish in this one. He's definitely struggling to make money, make ends meet, even with his investigation job. It's not taking care of everything, you know what I mean? And even as the Spider, he is quippy, he's witty, he's jokeful, kind of taunting his enemies and his opponents. There are a lot of things about Spider-Noir that were very Peter Parker-esque, and I like that because it wasn't the same character, but it's the same character. You know what I mean? And I thought that that was really cool, especially for fans of Spider-Man who like those things specifically. You're going to get that. You know what I mean? Also, the villains that were in this show, I thought were done pretty well. They fit the time that the show takes place in, and sometimes they get a little corny, or even the powers themselves aren't as extravagant as they would be in a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. Flint Marko, the Sandman, for one, he was never, not one time, was this big old Sandman giant. You know what I mean? He was of similar size, a little bit beefier, definitely stronger, but he was maintained in his body. You know what I mean? There was nothing really crazy. He wasn't shooting sand out of his hands or getting carried away in the wind and in the mist and whatever. He was very just a man made out of sand. And I thought that was an interesting take, but it fit for, I don't know, it just fit really well in the tone and placement of this show. I think the person who really gets the most craziness when it comes to his powers is probably Electro, or Mr. Watts, as he referred to himself. But I was calling him Electro the entire time, so that's what I'm going with. But his powers were a little bit more crazy than the rest of the villains. He was shooting electricity out of his hands. He was electrocuting people in the water. His seemed a little bit more wild, I guess you could say. Even Tombstone was very contained too. He was just a big guy, and he started getting this Oh my goodness. I know I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm gonna just say it. He looked like a Klingon from Star Trek. But it feels like he just developed a harder exterior, and which allowed him to be stronger and hit harder with minus the little white coming through in his forehead and all that type stuff. But the powers were really contained. Even Spider-Man himself, Spider-Noir, I feel like his web slinging, it wasn't acrobatic or anything, and it wasn't crazy fluid, but it was very intentional. His web slinging was very intentional. He knew what he was doing with it, and you could see that. It wasn't as crazy and going through skyscrapers and stuff like Toby or Andrew were doing, but it fit, you know what I mean? There were a lot of side stories, I think, too, that were in these 8 episodes of this season, dealing with Silvermane, but dealing with Flint Marko, dealing with Cat Hardy and Robbie Robinson. There were a lot of things going on, but I feel like the show did a really good job at connecting everybody and their story, that even when you were paying attention to this plot, you knew it was going to come around and it was going to connect to the overall story of what's going on, because everybody's involved. And Cat Hardy, she pissed me off. I'm ashamed to say that it actually took me a lot longer than I'm proud to admit that she's probably, if they do a season 2, is gonna be Black Cat. I think she's perfect for that kind of a role. I think she was already playing that kind of a role. What threw me off is that it shouldn't have, but your name wasn't Felicia, you know what I mean? It was Cat, but considering her industry, it's probably a nickname, and it took me a lot longer than I'm proud to admit. And I thought that she was an interesting piece, and she added to this level of intensity involving Ben Reilly's story that I thought was well done. And I think she did great in the role. The character pissed me off, though, especially in that last episode, or the second to last episode, the betrayal. You know what I mean? That pissed me off. One of my biggest pet peeves with superhero stories is when someone they trust gives up their identity. I hate that so much. And it's usually a person that she didn't even have to earn her place in that friendship to get that freaking information. He figured it out, and she definitely Lois Laned him, but I guess that wasn't his fault. Still, should have just let her drop. I thought the story overall surrounding Ben Reilly and even how he got his powers, because I really did appreciate that this was a story that was told really at the end. We didn't start off in the beginning. We didn't start off in the middle. This is the end of Ben Reilly the Spider, you know what I mean? Because even people in the town are talking about how they thought he was retired and he probably should retire. And he's not who he used to be. There was a big conversation on the outside that was like, hey, dude's getting a little old. But even with that, I'm glad we got a little bit of backstory and how he did develop his powers and being in the war, saving this group of people who were being experimented on, and a freaking man spider just bites him, and now his DNA is all weird and messed up. And it is honestly the same similar origin. I mean, he got bit by a spider, you know what I mean? But mixing in this element, in my mind, going to like Weapon X program or a super soldier program, you know what I mean? Even though these experiments were being done by the Germans, I thought that it was a really good, they did it in a really tasteful way that didn't make you feel like we were being taken out of the story. It added to the story and showing his background and what had happened and everything. And I really appreciated that. And it was really cool to see. A man spider himself, he looked terrifying. I thought that was part of, and this show does have a little bit of body horror, uncomfortable type of things going on. That was the scariest one to me, because that dude looked fucked up. It's really hot in my car, so I am turning on the AC. My biggest question, though, I think when it comes to this character in particular, is I've seen a lot of debate or questions even online, and people, whether they know or acting like they know, I don't know. But the question was, is this Spider-Noir the same Spider-Noir from Into the Spider-Verse? And I would really like to know what you think, because I believe it was the first episode, the opening, he was talking about how he didn't even realize or didn't even think about if there were other universes until recently. And I did think I thought that was really interesting. And I did see a good point that was online where someone was saying, no, it's not the same Spider-Noir, because as we've seen in the Into the Spider-Verse movies, they do have live action is its own universe. And we saw that when they showed clips of Toby, Andrew, and then Childish Gambino. What the hell is his damn name? That guy, Prowler, Into the Spider-Verse movie. So if this was the same Spider-Noir, he would be in animation. And that logic kind of holds up. but also he could just be a Spider-Noir that is maybe the same exact story, but now this one is in live action. Who knows? But I'm interested to know what you might think about that, or if you think that they're the same, or if they're not, why not? Because it's not really a question that they just go out and straight up answer, you know what I mean? But as far as the show goes, man, I think that, especially if you are a fan of Spider-Man anyway, I think this is a really good show. I think that it's different as far as the normal lineups that we've had into the Spider-Man mythos. I ended up watching, so I did mine black and white and then in color and then swap back and forth. That's just how it played for me for a while. And then the last few episodes were just all black and white. But how did you watch it? Because honestly, I liked the color version, but with the tone of the show, I almost felt like it was too bright. And it makes sense because a lot of the high-rise shots and stuff in Spider-Man are really bright and overlooking the city and everything. But for the tone of the show, it was just too much. I actually preferred the black and white version. It felt a little bit more authentic. It felt a little bit more in line with the show and the time, I guess, honestly. But if you are a Spider-Man fan, I think you're really going to like this show, even with its different twists on there. I think there are a lot of little Easter eggs and stuff that you could probably latch onto and have a good time with. Nicolas Cage does a great job. He's quirky and funny and very weird. This Spider-Man is this Spider-Man is much more arachnid than the other Spider-Mans that we've seen on the big screen. And he's definitely messed up and he's weird and just old. But he does a good job and he fits the character really well. And that goes really with pretty much everybody else in the cast too. The supporting cast, I don't know anybody's real name, but they all really did a great job and they really played their characters very well and mixed it in with the times and just this gangster type of New Yorker feeling that I think worked really well. And I had a really good time with everybody, honestly. Silvermane as a boss, I thought he was really cool, really a POS, but it was really interesting. And I dug him as a main villain, I guess, you know what I mean? The setting, I will say that if I could have anything else or if I could have anything more, this felt a lot more like a Ben Reilly story than it did a Spider-Noir story, which is weird to say because there was a lot of Spider-Man moments and Spider-Man time in there. But for some reason, it just felt more centered on the story of Ben Reilly and his life as a private investigator than it did. I would just like an equal amount. And honestly, I could really be tripping on that. I wonder how you guys feel about that. But it's just something that I noticed, noticed while watching, that it felt a little bit more Ben Reilly leaned than the Spider. But honestly, it didn't really take away anything from me because I enjoyed Ben Reilly's story in that performance as well. The action I thought was really cool. There are a few moments where you can obviously tell the CGI and all that type of stuff, but really, you take fighting styles back in the day and how they got down. I think it fit actually really well, and it did a really good job. So I wasn't too taken aback by anything there. Again, my preference is the black and white. I think that it fits better and it looks better and it's a little bit more authentic to the time period and the story that's being told. But I had a really good job with it. I'm glad they dropped all 8 episodes right away, even though it took me like 2 days to finish it. But I really appreciated that and it helped me get through it. I don't know if this is a show that we would be talking about week by week. I think that there are episodes that are a lot weaker than others that I don't know if it would have been received well had it been week by week instead of all at once like it was. So I think that they did a good job with that one. But as far as my thoughts on the show, Spider-Noir, there you go. There you have it. I dug it. Probably a good 8 out of 10. And I think that's pretty solid. So let me know what you thought about the show, how you enjoyed it, what were some of your favorite moments, and how you feel about Nicolas Cage portraying this character. And let me know what you think about where we're going to go with the whole Ben Reilly thing too, because it's not his real name. And they said that in the show, that it's not his real name and he changed his name. And I'm wondering if it is Peter Parker. I think that there was some legality reasons as to why they didn't use Peter Parker in the first place or even call him Spider-Man. But we'll have to see as time goes on and if they do a season 2 and how that might progress, because I'm interested in that. And let me know what you think about that and where you think it's going to go. But as always, I appreciate you for hitting this video and listening to me yap it up about some Spider-Noir. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like and sub button so you don't miss any of the future videos that come out for the channel. Next week's gonna be kind of crazy, man. We got Scary Movie, Masters of the Universe. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, so I'm gonna try and get on it. But y'all know how it goes, man. Y'all stay geeked. I'm out of here, and be smooth.